Hello everyone, welcome back. I just wanted to quickly say thank you for all the support on the last video. I wasn't expecting at all that many people to watch it, and I appreciate all the comments and discussions you had. A few of you wanted more positioning content, so I wanted to talk about something I think gets overlooked quite a bit, which is how the enemy composition changes what good position actually looks like. So let's jump into it. One of the biggest mistakes players make when learning positioning is looking for universal rules. So they want answers like always take high ground, always stay near cover, always play with your team. And while those rules can be useful, they eventually stop being helpful because Overwatch isn't played in a vacuum. The enemy also gets a vote. And whether a position is good or bad depends heavily on who you're playing against. So let's talk about what I mean. I'm gonna take an example from one of my ranked games where I took this really, quote, strong position as Anna on the high ground behind the point here on King's Row. So here I have cover, I have great sight lines, I can help my team out, and I can throw offensive nades main. And on paper, this looks like a fantastic position. But let's look at the enemy composition. So they have D.Va, Kiri, and Symmetra, which counts as a dive team because of D.Va's boosters and SimTP. Kiri can always follow up on dives, Mei can follow up. And Sen in the backline is a pretty scary long sideline duelist for me in this position. So they decide to TP to high ground, and although it seems they weren't too aware that I was already positioned here, since they allowed me to get a sleep in, and I was being indecisive about throwing a nade in there because, when it was too late. So I die here, and this was not because the position itself was bad. It was because of the enemy's composition that forced me to retreat sooner than later, or take a different position. But let's say I was playing against a brawl composition, consisting of Reinhardt, Cass, Reaper, Baptiste, and Zenyatta. Who is actually threatening me here? Reinhardt can't reach me, Reaper has to take a long route or TP, Cass can't instantly force me out, the enemy team has limited ways to contest my position. So the map stays the same, my position stays the same. What changed was how much harder it became for the enemy to interact with it. And this is why I think positioning is less about locations and more about relationships. A position is only as strong as the enemy's ability to challenge it. So let's look at another example. Imagine you're playing soldier, you take an off angle on high ground. Against a slow brawl composition like the one I mentioned, this can be devastating because you get free damage, you force resources, you split the enemy's attention. But against a highly mobile dive composition, that same off angle might become a liability. Because the further you move from your team, the harder it becomes for them to help you, and the easier it becomes for the enemy to isolate you. So this is one of the reasons positioning advice often sounds contradictory, because people are describing different situations. So one player might say to take aggressive off angles, and another one says stay near your team, and both can be correct. The answer depends on what the enemy can actually do about your position. So let's think about positioning from the enemy's perspective. Whenever you choose a position, you're essentially asking the enemy a question. Can you deal with me here in this position? If the answer is no, you've probably found a strong position. If the answer is yes, then you need to understand what resources they will use. And this brings us to something I think is incredibly important. Because every position has a cost to contest. The question is whether that cost is worth it for the enemy. For example, if a Winston has to use jump and bubble and receive support from both Mercy and Genji just to pressure one Ana, that is a huge commitment. But if that Ana dies every time they do it, then the investment is worth it. And many players stop their analysis halfway through. They think they used 3 cooldowns to reach me. Okay, and then what happened? Did you survive? Did your team punish them? Did they trade resources for nothing? or did they trade resources for your life? Those are very different outcomes. So the value of a position doesn't come from forcing resources, it comes from what happens after those resources are forced. And that's why understanding enemy composition is so important, because compositions determine what resources are available. A Reinhardt composition and a Winston composition doesn't challenge positions the same way. A poke composition and a dive composition don't create pressure the same way. Aerial heroes don't interact with maps the same way ground-based heroes do, like Echo versus Cassidy, for example. The best players are constantly evaluating these things during a match. So they're not just asking where is the strongest position, they're asking what heroes can reach me, how long will it take them, what cooldowns do they need, what happens if they commit, and perhaps most importantly, can my team help me if that happens? Because positioning isn't an individual skill, it's a team skill. A position that is perfectly safe with one team can become extremely dangerous with another. Maybe your Brig is nearby, maybe your Kiri can TP to you, maybe your tank controls the space underneath you, and those factors matter just as much as the position itself. And I think the biggest lesson people should take away from this video, because there are very few positions in Overwatch that are universally good, and there are very few positions that are universally bad. Most positions exist somewhere in between. Their value changes depending on the heroes involved, the resources available, and how both teams choose to interact with them. So the next time you're wondering whether a position is good, stop looking only at the map and look at the enemy composition. Because the question is not, is this a good position? The question is this a good position against this team?